What is going on, guys? It's your boy LOL Salty, bringing you another video. And this video shall be pertaining to Sony's PlayStation E3 2017 and what Sony could possibly show that shall make everyone's hands and feet shake, especially Nintendo's. So Sony shall reveal, hopefully, a new PlayStation Portable, or what people will be calling it, the PlayStation Vita 2, or the PSP 3, or I don't know if that would be 3, it would be technically 2, but since the Vita was considered a successor, they could call it 3, but you get my Tokyo drift, you catch it. The PSP was a great handheld. The sales of the PSP topped nearly 80 million worldwide. It gave the Nintendo DS, which sold, I think, originally like, what, 150 plus million units, which, I mean, is Nintendo handheld. All you got is Mario on that, so of course it's going to sell well, but you get my point. Of course, the DS did technically crush the PSP, but no other portable besides Sony really gave Nintendo that much competition. Until then, of course. But it all changed when Sony released the PSP. Sony was set out to slice up the market for people gaming on the go by boasting all the features the Nintendo DS did not have. The PSP had an analog stick, an optical drive, a gorgeous glossy widescreen, and the ability to save games on a memory stick downloaded from the glorious PlayStation Store. The PSP was a major success for Sony. It was, but you know, you can only go so far. Success sometimes, and with the PlayStation Vita, I will admit, me being a rabid PlayStation fanboy, Sony, whatever the motherfuckers want to call me, I can admit, I do love my Vita, but it was a failure. Which it was, for various fucking reasons. That overpriced memory card, which Sony, why did you make it proprietary? That just fucking killed Vita sales. And, you know, overpriced memory cards, I would say the lack of in-house first-party exclusives in terms of Western games. Like, we didn't get too many more Uncharted or like Infamouses. Like, I know Sony Ben was working on tons more first-party ton more exclusive games for the Vita, but Sony canned those, unfortunately. So I would just say the Vita had like a lack of support from Sony, especially, but the Vita just came out at the wrong time. Honestly, the Vita is way more better than the 3DS. It is, technically wise, like specs wise, it is way better. It is. But, you know, the 3DS did kill the Vita because, you know, it just had better games. Like, Nintendo supported the 3DS with a fine catalog of exclusives. I will admit that. They gave the 3DS the Mario, the Pokemon, which, God, Pokemon, whatever. But you get my point. Like, Nintendo has certain franchises that you just simply need that 3DS for, and Sony just lacked that, unfortunately. Here's the thing, though. Nintendo has released the Nintendo Switch, which is, a console you take on the go, but really it is a handheld. Like, a Nintendo fanboy can say, oh no, that's a console. Shut the fuck up. It's a fucking handheld. Faggots. But, Nintendo has shown that if you you can release a powerful console in this day and age. A powerful handheld in this day and age, and it'd be successful if you do it the right way, by supporting it with exclusive games, heavy exclusive games, and marketing it right. So here's the thing: Sony has all this momentum. They are the console leader, like they were usually before they fucked up with the PS3. I think they have at least 50 or 60% of the market right now, the market share right now, at least for the console space. So yeah, Sony is leading everything right now, and the PlayStation division is making Sony insane profit alone this year. So like, things are going very well for Sony. So how else could Sony steal away E3 from Microsoft by not only showing games that are superior to Nintendo and Microsoft, but show a heavy, technically, like, impressive PlayStation Portable to steal away the show? Like, I believe the Vita sold between 9 to 15 million units worldwide, at least what VG Charts has said. I might be a bit wrong about that, so forgive me if I am. But look, I believe Nintendo sold more than 900,000 units its first month. It might have been actually 1 million units it sold its first month alone due to artificial demand, I would argue, but it was a new console, and consoles usually sell typically very well during their launch months. So keep in mind, the Switch is nothing more than a very powerful handheld. So Sony, who is the market leader, and Sony has stated that they are looking at their competitors and what they're doing. Kazurai, the boss man, CEO of Sony, he has stated that they are looking at their competitors and what they're doing because Sony is trying to stay afloat in this ever-changing console business. By staying afloat, meaning staying ahead. And how do you stay ahead? You look at what the competition is doing. And learning what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Sony is keeping their eye on Nintendo. They see the Switch as being a success right now. How the Switch does a year from now, we shall see. Because I still call this thing a gimmick, but again, we shall see. Nintendo, people call the Wii a gimmick, but it outsold the Xbox 360 and the PS3. So we will see. We'll see. Okay. But yeah, what better way for Sony to show at E3 than to reveal new PlayStation Portable with the new AMD specs? I believe AMD is gonna be releasing their new Ryzen CPU chipset soon, and I'll probably be in the new PSP Portable, which I believe it will be. But I'm just a bit worried because Sony, they'll definitely make this thing very much more powerful than the Vita, of course. But I'm just worried about that battery life because the Nintendo Switch, that thing only lasts like what 1 to 3 hours depending on what game you play, and it's like the PSP 3 would be astronomically way more powerful than the Switch. So if they do that, how long would that battery last? Sony is an engineering mastermind, which Nintendo and Microsoft, they can't compete with Sony in terms of like sheer engineering. Hashtag Mark Cerny, biatch. But I'm just saying, like, it's crazy to think what Sony could do with this. Like, they'll definitely still win Nintendo spotlight at E3 this year if they reveal that. And Nintendo should be very worried, because here's why they should be worried. Sony is the market leader right now. And while going back to what I said before, the DS did indeed crush the PSP in sales by a good 70+ million units, which I know is a lot, but Sony did take away at Nintendo's market share during that gen. Not so much for the, PlayStation Vita and 3DS, because Nintendo just pretty much kept on that market share, but they did eat away at Nintendo's market share. So you never know. Like, things change quick in the gaming industry. Like, Sony's on top right now. Like, no one expected Sony to come out swinging like they did at the start of this gen, and they're just the kings on top. With PlayStation VR selling well, having lots of momentum, PlayStation 4 Pro doing well. Like, the PlayStation division is on a roll. It's hot right now for Sony. So, like, Nintendo should be very worried, especially if Sony shows off, like, if they market the PSP right this time. If they don't go with proprietary memory cards, which the main reason they did that because the PSP was hacked to shit. Don't get me wrong, Sony still made money from software, and the PSP was still profitable for Sony, but like they did lose some money just from the hacking alone. But Sony feared that would happen with the Vita, so they made lots of things proprietary, and they added encryption to the memory cards for the Vita. But I'm just saying, if Sony does everything right this time, I believe the PSP 3 Portable, it could very well outsell more than the Switch. Sony has tons of games, and think about it, they could just port those PS4 games right to the Vita, the new PSP 3 or Vita 2, whatever Sony decides to call it. I'm pretty sure they'll go PlayStation Portable something, but if they market it right, show off the right, good games for it, give it exclusive titles, Nintendo should be very worried. Because, like, Sony is king. Sony, they know how to dominate. And Sony, they see Sony versus other companies, like their competition, they learn from their mistakes. The PS3 was very overpriced at launch, I'm sorry. Hard to develop games for, cell processor. Granted, the PS3 was the most powerful console of the 7th gen, but it was hard to program games for. Developers complained about that. It was overpriced. It had what people called a gimmicky Blu-ray player at first, which now Blu-ray is like the standard now. So Sony learned from that. And, Sony was supposed to go out of business that gen, but right, they were supposed to go out of business a long time ago. But, people really over-exaggerate how broke Sony is or when they will or won't go out of business. Like, the PlayStation division just makes Sony so much money, they won't go out of business. Case in point. Alright, they won't. Yeah, like 8th gen started. They released the PS4 at a good price point, $400. The PS4 architecture is x86, so it's like PC architecture, so it's easy for developers to develop their games for. Like, it's easier to develop games for the PS4 than for the Xbox One. So yeah, take that as you will. I'm just saying. Like, Sony did everything right this gen. And what, I mean, they're pretty much at 60 million PS4s, like, sold to consumers. Like, I know they said, like, 60 million were shipped to retailers, but that was, like, what, a month or two ago? And I'm pretty sure they have at least sold 60 million to people's homes. So, yeah, Sony's they're sitting good right now. So, yeah. If Sony markets this thing right, makes it powerful, gives it support, you know, doesn't make things proprietary, Nintendo should be very worried. And Nintendo fans, fanboys, whatever you people are, y'all should be very worried too, because Sony is a juggernaut. And first off, too, people say, oh, Sony's just copying Nintendo again. Shut the fuck up. No, shut the fuck up. Because first off, Sony had this patent for the PSP3 back in 2015. So Sony's not copying jack shit. Like, Sony doesn't need to copy Nintendo. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. I hate when Nintendo fanboys always be like, oh, Sony, Microsoft always going to be copying Nintendo. Well, so mainly Sony, always trying to chase Nintendo. What the fuck does Sony have to chase? Go back. Look through history. 1995, PlayStation 1. They dominated the Nintendo 64. Crushed that motherfucker. 6th generation, PlayStation 2. They fucked the GameCube and the Xbox over. 3 times over. Again, the only gen Nintendo has won since Sony came to the market was the 7th gen Wii, which the Wii was a gimmick, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime gimmick, and it's outsold the PS3 and Xbox 360. But again, you know, Sony was under different leadership by, you know, Ken Katsuragi, so, you know, he wanted to make the PS3 a madhouse gaming machine, which I say he did. But yeah, Sony's under new leadership now. Andrew House, Shuhei Yoshida, like Sean Layden, like they know what they're doing now. I'm just saying, like, not that Ken Katsuragi was bad, but you know, he kind of did steal Sony's money and just pretty much made an astronomical machine that was out of this world, but pretty much hard to develop games for. But you get my point. If anyone has to chase, it's Nintendo. And all Nintendo does is try to differentiate themselves from the competition, which I say that's good. You don't want to necessarily make your console exactly like the competitors, but at the same time, you don't want to be astronomically far behind. Like, look at Nintendo's online. Like, yeah, it's not priced as high as Xbox Live or PSN because they know it's going to be garbage compared to them, but they're finally now catching up with, like, the online ecosystem now. Like, you know what I'm saying? And not only that, it's like, they're still far behind with that because you need a cell phone just to communicate online with the Switch. Like, are you serious? Like, get the fuck out of here. But case in point, Sony isn't copying Nintendo because Sony filed its patent, I believe, in 2014, or was it early 2015, way before the Switch even came out, for this type of on-the-go PlayStation experience like the Nintendo Switch did. So no, Sony's not copying Nintendo, so you can shut the fuck up saying that they are. Sony doesn't copy jack shit, fucking faggots. But yeah, so case in point, Sony releases this PSP3, they market this thing right, and if it's a success, which I believe it could very well be, because everything Sony's been released so far has been a success. VR has been a success for Sony. The Pro has been a success for Sony. The PlayStation division alone has been a massive success for Sony. Nintendo should be worried. Case in point. So that's the end of this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. Here's to hoping Sony reveals that PlayStation Portable, new PlayStation Portable at E3. So yeah, sayonara, guys, and take care. Drop a like and subscribe if you're new. LOL, you salty. Signing out. What is going on, guys? It's your boy, LOL, you salty, bringing you another video. And this video shall be pertaining to Sony's PlayStation E3 2017 and what Sony could possibly show that shall make everyone's hands and feet shake, especially Nintendo's. So Sony shall reveal, hopefully, a new PlayStation Portable, or what people will be calling it, the PlayStation Vita 2, or the PSP3, or I don't know if that would be 3, it would be technically 2, but since the Vita was considered a successor, they could call it 3, but you get my Tokyo drift, you catch it. The PSP was a great handheld. The sales of the PSP topped nearly 80 million worldwide. It gave the Nintendo DS, which sold, I think, originally like, what, 150 plus million units, which, I mean, is Nintendo handheld. All you got is Mario on that, so of course it's going to sell well, but you get my point. Of course, the DS did technically crush the PSP, but no other portable besides Sony really gave Nintendo that much competition. Until then, of course.
Send you a message somehow. I mean, I hope they will. Hell, I'm not even sure you'll get this message. If you do, I want you to know I never blamed you